Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing Well, the Wellbeing Science Insights Podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We're champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Lu Ngo, coming to your ears from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's learn together. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Doing Well. And on this week's episode, we are going to talk about curiosity from the perspective of harnessing curiosity to overcome anxiety. And joining me today in the virtual studio is Joy Hou. Joy Hou is a registered psychologist and founder of Empathy Works Psychological Wellness. With a special interest in the mental and emotional well-being of individuals, she speaks in schools and corporate organizations and also provides counseling services for individuals who seek emotional and psychological support. Thanks so much for joining us today, Joy.
Thank you so much for having me, Lu.
And thank you. It's been a long time coming because, we've been trying to make this work. Well-being is important. So I'm glad that you prioritize your well-being. And now we have found a better time where we can talk, which is quite on brand for you, right? You should definitely take care of your well-being first.
Yes, certainly.
I'm curious about why you chose this profession, especially because, when we were discovering your bio, there's a part where it says that you talk at schools and organizations. And I think it's kind of interesting because normally people either focus on talking at schools or at corporates. But you're kind of doing both. So, how did you choose to do this and why?
Oh, okay. Actually, this is my second career. I started off my career as a high school teacher more than 20 years ago. So at that time, I was really, I was very young in my early 20s. So I really enjoyed my interaction with the young people, the youths. But I found that I was not really equipped to help them. Sometimes they will share with me about certain struggles that they have, in school or at home or with their friends, but I just found that I wasn't equipped with the skills to really help them effectively. So I decided that after I've left teaching, I actually went into further studies on counselling and psychology to help me to be more equipped. And since then, I've been working with young people, young students, from elementary all the way to tertiary level. But only it was about a few years ago in 2015, that I had this opportunity to work with the corporates to provide some lunch talks. And I found it really interesting. It gave me another perspective, in how, what are the challenges of people at the workplace other than the youngsters, right? So I realized that it was another meaningful role that I could take on. And since 2015 until now, I've, taken on this dual role of working both in the schools and also with the corporate organizations. Yeah, so this is how my journey began until now.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And today we're talking about curiosity and harnessing curiosity to overcome anxiety. Why is this topic important in today's context?
Yes. Okay, I think curiosity is something so important to us. Research has shown that curiosity actually helps to buffer against depression and anxiety and other mental health conditions. When we are curious about different things around us, it actually helps us, to build resilience. For example, I think in the past 3 years, I think many of us have actually, gone through a very difficult time during the pandemic. So as we look back, with curiosity, a pair of curious eyes, we can ask ourselves, what have I learned from the past 3 years about
Mm.
myself, about how I manage challenges, what helped me, why did I, behave in a certain way in certain situations. For example, this actually helps us to gain awareness of how we feel, awareness of what helps, what does not help. And in a way, it actually helps us to build our resilience muscles as well. Yeah,
Mhm.
so in a nutshell, I think curiosity is a very important strength that all of us should develop in order to build our resilience muscles and also to help us to, have this greater well-being, especially our emotional and mental well-being. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah. So that's a little sneak peek into our conversation in a little bit, where we're going to talk about this in depth. Before we get there, let's talk a bit more about you. We have a section we called Have You Met Joy? We're going to get to know you better through some of the things that you love. And the first thing that I always ask my guests, I love this question, is what is your favorite book?
Oh, okay. Uh, I'm a Christian, so I think the first book that I will say will be the Bible. And also another book that I really enjoy, that was really inspiring to me, is known as The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. Yeah,
Mm.
so it actually talks about how we can, have a purpose greater than ourselves. How we can use our time, on this, our limited time on this earth, to make a difference to the people around, and what is the why behind what we do as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think
Hmm.
that actually inspires me a lot. Yeah, many
Mm.
years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Not just one, but two different books that you love. And what about a movie you've enjoyed recently?
Oh, one movie that I really enjoyed, just a few weeks ago. Me and my husband, we went to watch this movie known as YOLO, YOLO. You Only Live Once. It's actually produced by a China director, right? From China. Her name is Jia Ling, and she was really inspiring. She was also the lead actress in that movie. In the movie, she acted as this very severely obese individual who did not have motivation in doing anything at all. She was, not employed. She didn't want to do anything at all, and she actually experienced a lot of challenges. So, fast forward, right? In the end, she actually picked herself up. She took on boxing, and in real life, Jia Ling, as a person, actually experienced transformation, not just physically. She shed actually 50 kilograms. And not just physically, but, when I actually watch the movie and I see her interviews, right, outside the movie, she actually, there's this radiance that shone from within, her personal transformation beyond the physical transformation. And this movie actually reminds me of the importance of self-care and self-love, for individuals, for all of us individually. Yeah, so that's
Mhm.
one movie that I'll highly recommend.
Yeah, wow. That sounds amazing. Thank you for sharing. I don't think I've come across that yet. I don't think it's showing in Australia, but I'll find where I can watch
Ah,
it. It sounds really good.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
you should go and watch it. I think, yeah, that's right. Maybe it's not yet in Australia. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Nice recommendation and something new for sure. What about a podcast that you enjoy if you are a podcast listener?
Okay, one of the podcasts that I enjoy is this boundaries.me by Henry Cloud, Dr. Henry Cloud. He's also the author of this book known as Boundaries, the co-author of this book. I think, this podcast also includes sessions where he actually interviews individuals who just call in and ask him for advice. And so I think, yeah, I actually learned a lot from his sharing with the people who call in as well. Yeah,
Mm.
that's right. So that's one
Oh,
podcast that I enjoy.
oh, that's cool. So he actually talked to people live on the podcast?
Uh, yes. Not on the podcast, but I believe it wasn't live, so it was they will call in, but they will edit the
Yeah.
podcast after that. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah,
okay.
that's
That's
right.
very interesting. Yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Nice concept. So, my next question for you is about your role model. Some of our guests have one, some have multiple role models, and some actually don't have any. So, which train are you on?
Okay, I think I have one role model at least, and she is my maternal grandmother. She's passed on at the age of 99. Yeah, about 20 years ago. So I grew up with my maternal grandmother. So me and my three cousins, we grew because our parents were working. So we stayed with my grandmother and my auntie, maternal auntie. So my grandmother, when she was taking care of us, you know, it was really hard to take care of, four children, four teenagers, four young children. We're all so noisy and we're all bickering and fighting. But her love actually for us actually touched me. Yeah, she never I never heard her complain about, uh, the struggles of taking care of us, not in front of us. I never heard her, complain about the things that she had to do. At the age of, in her 80s, late 80s, she was, still going to the market, to buy groceries. And I still remember very vividly she was so thrifty, right? She would actually walk all the way from Chinatown to our house, which was maybe 1 hour. It was about 1 hour walk, with two bags of durians. She loves durians, right, in her hands. And when she walked back with the big red plastic bag of durians, we will actually notice her from afar. So I think this image actually stuck to me until now. So her sense of her love for people, um, she was very industrious, and she was also a very curious lady. Yeah, I remember when she was about 90. I think she was 90 or 91. We were at a shopping center, so we saw some items. I think it was some cushions, and she was so curious. She was just looking at the items and asking herself, talking to herself, how did they make this? How did they make this? So at that point, I was also inspired by her curiosity. I also tried to find out how they make the item. Yeah,
Hmm.
so I think my grandmother actually makes an impact on me a lot.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. And, even though she's no longer around, it seems like you still learn from her to this day. And it's kind of on topic with, how curious she was as a human. So that's great to hear.
Certainly, thank you.
Yeah. And finally, in this part, I would love to know about a course you've taken that really inspired you. This could be something you took a long time ago, or maybe something you picked up recently.
Mm, okay. There was this course that I took a long time ago. I think it was 2005. It was a short course. I think it was a 3-day course, a full day course conducted by Dr. Patricia Sherwood. It's a clay therapy workshop or course that she conducted in Singapore. She's from Australia as well. So she came to Singapore and taught us, about clay therapy. So clay therapy is actually a form of expressive arts therapy where the client, will have a safe space to express the emotions, through the use of clay. So we actually had the opportunity to use the clay for ourselves, and because of the tactile nature of the clay, right? It was so calming and so yeah, so calming, and it actually really helped me to process some of the things that I was going through at that moment. Yeah, so I was actually really intrigued that this medium, this clay, could actually help people, especially for example people who are going through trauma, or young children who are not able to express themselves through words, right? The use of the clay in this medium can actually help people to work through their difficulty or their trauma. Yeah, so that actually made an impact on me. Yeah, so and also piqued my interest in this kind of expressive arts therapy as well. Yeah,
Wow, fascinating. Thank you for sharing. I didn't know that
thank
it
you.
could be a form of therapy.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Must have been
Mm.
a new skill as well, using clay. I don't think I've ever tried using clay before, so
Oh,
that's new to
okay.
me too.
I
Yeah.
see. Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
You can try it out. It's really very calming, the sensory nature. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
I
really
know that there are
cool.
a lot of workshops about that. So
Mm.
that's an interesting course.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. So now let's talk about today's topic that
Mm.
we've got to know you so much better and how multifaceted you are. So let's talk about harnessing curiosity to overcome anxiety in the context of well-being. And since you are, you've been working in this space, I would say in the well-being space, professionally for a long time with different types of audience, from young people to people in the corporate world. What do you think well-being means?
Okay. I think well-being refers to how we feel, the sense of satisfaction with ourselves, not just physically, right? That we are coping well, not just physically but mentally, emotionally and also socially, meaning that we have a social support network, that we are able to seek help when we need to, we are able to emotional well-being, we are able to manage our emotions, especially the more difficult emotions such as stress, for example, or anger. Yeah. So I think that to me is well-being. It's not just the absence of an illness, but it's more than that. It actually encompasses, um, how we feel about ourselves. It can be contentment, even though we might be going through a difficult moment, but we can still say that we have good well-being because we are content, we're able to look at the positive things, or we are able to be grateful for the things that are still going well. I think that to me is well-being. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you mentioned a good point there where it's not just about not being unwell. It's also about so much more in life and, finding that sense of contentment is actually also something that I hear a lot in the happiness science shows that we have here at LMSL, the Cerebus show. It seems like there's this overlap and contentment is kind of in the sweet spot between happiness and well-being.
Oh yes, certainly, certainly. Contentment, sense of gratitude and thankfulness. I think it is the sweet spot as well, for
Mhm.
well-being. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, when you work with different, types of individuals, from younger people to professional of the older generation, and yes, people that are a bit more on the grown-up side, being grown up is such an interesting concept in itself. What do you think to be a few things that people tend to get wrong about well-being, and especially, I think it's important to maybe address the younger generation too, because you work with you give talks at schools, right? So I'm sure you would notice a few things that the new generation would be different from the older generation.
Yeah, that's right. Um, well-being. I think for the younger generation, um, yeah, because now the younger generation, many of them could be on social media, right? So I guess well-being is also about being able to connect, with people, not just on social media, not just about how many likes that we have, on TikTok or Instagram, but well-being, social well-being. Um, I think it's very important for young people, to know that it's okay to reach out for help. It's okay, to be not okay. Yeah. And many there's one misconception among the young people, that well-being means that I must be happy every day. There was once that was working with this young person. All right, he he was actually depressed and anxious. So when we were working through some of his emotions, there were moments when he was sharing with me that, hey, Miss Joy, I don't feel happy. I'm still like, sometimes, after eating my favorite food, for example, after going for a run, when I come back home, I'm still unhappy. So I actually encourage him. I say that, well-being or, progress, right? Or well-being. In other words, it's not just a straight line, a linear line where we feel happy all the time. You know, when we actually depend on our feelings, of happiness to determine whether we are at a good state of well-being or not, I think that's not going to be accurate because feelings are fleeting. Feelings come, feelings can go, right? And for example, I can feel happy, now after I eat my favorite lunch, my favorite food. And then when I go, oh, it pours and it rains, and then my mood gets crushed. But does that mean that, um, that I don't have good well-being? I don't think so, right? So I think one misconception for young people is that, I have to be always happy. Yeah, to have well-being. Yeah, another misconception for adults, right? Because knowing adults, we have different responsibilities. For example, we take care of our family, of our work, our colleagues, our clients, our other people, our friends. Sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. And sometimes when adults take care of ourselves, first, put self-care first, I think we actually might feel a bit guilty, right? And we might think that, oh, okay, self-care is selfish. And self-care is actually related to well-being. So one misconception is that, for adults is self-care is selfish, and I need to put other people first. But if we don't take care of ourselves first, our well-being first, right? Take care of our well-being through self-care first. How can we take care of other people more effectively? Yeah. So yeah, that's one misconception that I often come across for
Yeah.
adults. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing both perspectives. I think for the younger generation, it's a new challenge because they are the generation that grow up with social media. They probably find it harder to connect in person, and I think the noise of social media can sometimes make the quality of relationship suffer. And
Certainly, certainly.
with
Yeah.
the older
Mm,
generation, with the people that are adults or working adults, especially parents, what you
mm,
pointed out is really important because a lot of parents are kind of putting everything into their family all the time, and they neglect taking care of themselves. And taking time out to themselves feels like something that is not allowed, sort of, or like exactly like you were saying, they feel guilty about it, and in fact it is so important. And I think it's just I guess it's interesting because as we grow through different stages in life, we learn so many different things, right? I'm not a parent myself yet, but I hear this a lot from friends who are already
mm.
parents.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, parents, yeah, the sacrificial love that they have for the children,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be tough on them if they do not take care of themselves first. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it seems like there's a lot of work to be done on different fronts. And, in different stages in life, we need to learn different skills. Today, in particular, we're talking about curiosity as a skill to help us with anxiety. So it's quite unique. It's not just curiosity in general, it's, curiosity to help with anxiety. And I think, one thing I have noticed is, at least for the past, I would say 5 to 10 years, people start talking about anxiety a bit more, especially in Asian countries. In the Western world, it has been a thing that is a bit more popular, but in Asian countries, it wasn't really a thing. And I am from an Asian background myself, and I feel like I noticed that it has been talked about a bit more. So I think in a way it helps with some of the factors that you just discussed, right? For example, feeling like if you're taking care of yourself, you're selfish. There's a sense of anxiety in that. So, I think today's topic is important in addressing how we can cope with these different challenges in life, because there's always going to be a sense of anxiety that comes at different stages in life. Whatever it is that we are going through, we will probably potentially be feeling anxious about something. And if someone clicked on this podcast, they're probably dealing with that. So, how would you define curiosity in that sense? So, what exactly is curiosity? What does it look like in real life?
Okay. curiosity, I think to me, you know, it refers to this natural urge to actually want to learn about things, learn about people, about new experiences, be open to new experiences, and also in doing so, we can actually grow. Uh, as a person, right? Grow professionally and also personally. So, with regard to anxiety, right? I think I totally agree that in the Asian context, because I'm also an Asian in Singapore. So, in the Asian context, right? Anxiety, I totally agree that in the past, I think it has not been spoken that much, in the past, but I think in the past 10 years, especially in this past 3 years, I think because of the pandemic, right? I think there's this increase in people experiencing depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues. I'm so very happy and very glad that there's this openness in talking about mental health issues, especially among the young people. Yeah, and there's this reduction in the stigma as well currently. Yeah, that I notice regarding mental health, talking about mental health. Yeah, so curiosity, I think as a strength. Oh, as a strength, right? I think it is very important to actually nurture this curiosity. For example, like when we meet challenges, right? When we are anxious, for example, when we go to a new place, right? A new workplace, and naturally we'll feel anxious. But when we are able to harness that curiosity and ask ourselves, hey, you know, uh, what do you, what do I think I can learn from this new place? Who are the people that I can meet? Or when we are at a new place, right? This person looks interesting. How can I connect more with this person? Oh, maybe we can look back at our past experiences. What have my past experiences helped me in the previously when I was joining a new workplace or when I went to a new school? By being curious, by asking ourselves questions, that can actually help to lower down this anxiety level in ourselves. Yeah, so I thought, that is could be a connection, of how we can harness curiosity to help us, to manage our anxiety or stress. Yeah.
Yeah. And earlier in the episode, you also said that curiosity helps to nurture our resilience, which is a character strength, right? So I think it's kind of related in this context because like you were just giving the example of going to a new workplace, that helps because if you're going to a new workplace and you're dealing with anxiety all the time, then it will be really hard to focus on the task at hand. And I think from what you're saying, it sounds like if we practice curiosity and start asking questions about, what is happening around us instead of focusing on the fear of what is probably not going to happen, that will help us to, go through the days and, have that sense of building that sense of resilience within us.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think that helps. Yeah.
hmm So,
Mm,
how does that help us with our overall sense of well-being? Earlier you said
mm,
that well-being
mm,
is, very multifaceted.
mm,
Physical health,
mhm,
mental
mhm,
health, emotional health,
mm,
social well-being
mhm,
is
mm.
another aspect as well.
All right. Mm-mm.
How does building, and nurturing our curiosity help with all of those aspects?
Okay. For example, let's say if we have emotional well-being, right? Let's say when we are feeling upset, when we are feeling angry, we can actually take some time, after we have cooled down, uh, to reflect, to ask ourselves, hey, why was I upset earlier on by what this person said? Why was I annoyed by what the child did, right? And is it because I felt that I was not being respected? Is it because I felt manipulated? Or is there a pattern in you know uh in my behavior, in my emotions? Whenever certain person says certain things, certain types of comments, I will feel a certain way. So when we are able to actually reflect about how we feel and ask ourselves, why do we feel a certain way? For example, why do we feel angry? Perhaps is sadness underneath the anger, or perhaps it could be hurt underneath the anger, that can actually help us to increase our emotional intelligence. By being aware of our emotions, being self-aware, it increases our emotional intelligence as well. And so that when in future, when similar incidents happen, we can be more prepared. For example, when we go you know when we are aware that, I'm always triggered by this person, right? There's a pattern of being triggered by this person. If we are aware, uh because of being curious earlier on, by reflecting, right? If we are aware, the next time when we are going to meet that person, okay, for a family gathering, for example, we can actually prepare ourselves, right? So as not to be, not so that the intensity of the anger can be actually lowered as well. So as for social well-being, right, being curious actually helps us to be more empathetic towards people. For example, when we meet someone at the workplace who's a bit more difficult, right, or someone who's a little bit more aloof, every time we want to reach out to this person, he or she says, "Oh, no, no, no," to us. Every time we want to ask the person, a new colleague, for instance, do you want to have lunch together? You want to have tea together? And the person just, say no to us, rejects us. Maybe at the very start, many of us might actually think that the person is, so rude, so unfriendly, and we might just, shut him off, right? But if we were to give ourselves some time and the person some time to ask ourselves, to have this thing called empathic curiosity or empathetic curiosity, to look beyond the surface behaviors, right? Or to look beyond or hear beyond the words that the person is using, we can actually ask ourselves, hey, why is the person behaving this way? Or, what is actually happening? Maybe this person could be going through a tough time, or maybe he could be anxious, having social anxiety. Or, for example, in a team meeting, uh, when someone is always very quiet, right? Instead of putting a judgment on the person that the person is not contributing, maybe we can ask ourselves, what is actually really happening? Why is she, always so quiet? All right, is something happening? Or maybe someone who's behaving in a way that annoys us, a so-called difficult person, or someone who behaves differently from what she used to behave. And we can ask ourselves to look beyond the surface, to ask, hey, actually, is there something I can do? Is there something I can help this person, instead of just brushing the person off or putting a judgment on the person? In doing so, we actually can build more positive relationships, and positive relationships is actually a very important ingredient to our social well-being. Yeah, so that's how I see curiosity coming. The role of curiosity
Yeah.
in nurturing well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good insight, because sometimes when it comes to, a new environment and new people, or a situation that we haven't been through before, we tend to, I think, as humans, assume the worst. And, instead of asking question, we assume things that would be probably making the situation even worse and causing more
Yes,
anxiety, right? And
exactly,
so, yeah,
exactly.
I think having that curiosity to ask the question and ask the person directly is really good. And actually, I have this interesting example. So at work, I'm, recently have been quite busy, and sometimes I don't talk to colleagues
Mhm,
as often as I used to.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
I have a lot of meetings, so sometimes I kind of have this headache, in meetings, and instead of talking, I just type. Some colleagues thought that I'm mad at them, and
Oh yeah,
one
yep.
day,
Mm,
one of the colleagues came to me and they're like,
mhm,
"Is something wrong, Lu? Are you
mhm,
upset at
mhm,
me over something? Because you
mhm,
didn't say
mhm,
anything in the meeting. You just typed." And I, initially I was taken aback, but then I kind of laughed at myself, because there's that gap of communication that was hilarious, and I'm glad they asked. And I explained it to them, and I was like, "Oh, actually, it's nothing. It's nothing personal. It's just because I have a headache and I don't really want to talk." So I just typed the message, and that's actually quite interesting given what you talked about, because maybe if someone else was wondering the same question but didn't ask me
Yeah,
directly, they probably have this sense of anxiety that I don't like them, and then we cannot work well together, for example. So
exactly.
yeah, so
Exactly.
that's probably a really good point for us to always try to stay curious and ask people when things seem to not go a certain way. And I think this is actually quite tough, though, because when it comes to relationships, we have different types of people, different personalities. And I guess for me, I noticed that it's hard to ask certain people. It's just like sometimes you feel this sense of passive aggressiveness, for example, and you kind of like, oh, I don't really want to ask. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to ask them. So if that situation happens, and when we're kind of we have that curiosity, but we're a little bit terrified to reach out to these people and talk to them, what should we do?
Okay, I think that's a very good question also. Yeah, because not all of us could be comfortable to
Yeah.
ask someone, or perhaps ask the boss, are you upset with me? Yeah. Yeah, I think perhaps we can within ourselves actually have this self-talk, to ask ourselves to be open, to be curious about different possibilities that we can actually tell ourselves. We can ask ourselves, what is one way to reframe the situation. Maybe this colleague, or no, if the boss did not acknowledge my hello, right? Maybe the boss did not see me, or the boss was just thinking about her own problems, or the boss was thinking about her hot date at night, right? So it's not about me. Yeah. So if that's right. So when we have this sense of curiosity, we are actually more open, to tell ourselves that, hey, besides this thought of, oh, my boss must be upset with me, and then increases my anxiety, we can actually be open to reframe, the situation, to have different, scenarios that we can actually tell ourselves. Yeah. And yeah, so in fact, this is also a way, reframing, with curiosity, is also a way to manage these ants. We call them automatic negative thoughts, ANTS, right? Crawling in our mind, and increasing our anxiety. Yeah, and one of these ends, we call them cognitive distortions. One of these ends is known as mind reading, thinking of what people might be thinking of us. Yeah, so yeah, and there's this yeah, that yeah, I'm also thinking of this example that some time ago I was working with this boy, yeah, and he had some social anxiety, so he was always thinking that people could be observing him, to the point that he doesn't want to go to the canteen uh to have his meal, his lunch or recess, because he was always thinking that people might be judging him and looking at him, right? So we did one experiment. Yeah. And this boy was open. Okay. He was open. He was curious, right? We did one experiment. So we went to a crowded food court. So I asked him to sit at one corner. I actually went to sit by myself at another table, right? So I asked him to observe the people around me. What do they, when they pass by me, do they actually, look at me, or they are just, engrossed in their own, uh, bring their own food to their own table, or just talking to each other. So at the end, when we had a debrief, he shared that, hey, actually I realized that people are not even interested in you, Joy. You are seated alone there. People are not even looking at you. They just got their food from the stall, and they were looking around for the space, right? And the only person who was perhaps looking at you, glancing at you for a split second, was the cleaner. The cleaner who was actually wondering whether I can, I need to clean up this space or not, right? So yeah, and this boy was one good thing about him was he was open, he was curious, right? To understand about different perspectives. Yeah. So that actually helped him, to know that, hey, when I go back to school, I can actually sit by myself. though it can be tough for him at first, but it actually helps him to have the very first step to know that, hey, my thoughts that causes anxiety within me are not true. People are not judging me. I can be seated alone and people are just doing their own thing. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such a great example. And, this would help a lot of people, not just young children or kids or adolescents, because this probably happens to adults. Adults, we're super self-aware sometimes, and this really helps. And this is actually it is a big deal for the boy in your story. At the same time, it kind of opens up, a few more things that I'm thinking about, because this is just one simple situation, right? But in reality, when we are going through a tough time, there could be multiple different scenarios. I guess the principle stays the same. You harness your curiosity, you have that sense of openness to what can happen. But let's say someone is going through a really tough time right now. It's not about, being by themselves at a really crowded cafeteria. It could be, life challenges. They're going through something really difficult, and all they worry about every day is like that sense of anxiety. An example I can give you is one of my really close friends lost her job recently, and she's been on a job hunt. So she's neglecting her self-care because of that, because every day is kind of like, oh, like I still haven't found a role that I like. It's again, like I'm dreading waiting for their response, from the new interviews that I've taken. And it's sort of taken over her life, and this kind of, she has this freeze response where she cannot really do anything else but run away from the feeling. And a lot of anxiety is involved in this process because she doesn't know what's going to happen next. And so I think the biggest problem is the neglecting self-care. It's not like she's not doing anything, but it's the fact that she's just forgetting that, like, you got to do self-care, you got to take care of yourself, you got to, sleep well, take care of your, environment and things like that. And I guess for people that are in situations like this, and there are so many different kinds of scenarios, they are probably stuck in a loop, or in a certain headspace where they can't really do anything else. And when this happens, how can they actually harness curiosity to help them overcome anxiety? Because it's going to be really different. It's not like they can observe someone sitting by themselves in the cafeteria and
Yeah,
learn from them,
that's
right?
right. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing about your friend. I hope that she's feeling better at this
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So I guess yeah, I think there's a very real problem, many of us could actually relate as well. Yeah, when we experience a major obstacle, what can we do, right? If we can have this firstly, I have to empathize with this person that it is really not easy, when
yeah,
we're going through a
absolutely.
tough time. Yeah, it's really, really not easy. Yeah, so I think being kinder to ourselves, self compassion, I think is so important, right?
Yeah,
Giving ourselves some time, even if we can't find a job that quickly, or even if we are given a job which we don't really like or which gives us a lower salary. I think perhaps one way could be, to be self-compassionate, and also maybe to be open to different different opportunities. Perhaps, for example, if we can't get a job that that pays as well as the past, perhaps this current opportunity can, if we are open, to this opportunity in front of us, perhaps it can actually open to be a bridge to different opportunities in future. And when we are actually open to try new things, we never know that we might really enjoy this new role. Yeah, so that's one way that in this specific example, correct, that we can use our curiosity, our openness to try new things. And another way that we can actually help ourselves is, to see challenges as growth opportunities, right? Instead of like seeing a challenge as an unsurmountable struggle or problem, we can actually see the challenge as an opportunity for us to grow, to ask ourselves, you know, how can I grow from this challenge? You know, what are the strengths that I can use that can help me through this challenge? Yeah. So, being open, to different scenarios. Another um, way that we can also help to harness our curiosity, right, could be, to think of out of the box, right, problem solving. Sometimes we could be stuck in a certain way of thinking. We must have this problem solved in this way. But maybe when we are able to think out of the box, to be more open to different solutions, options, we can actually, it helps us, to be able to, um, cope with the challenge a little bit by a little bit. Yeah, it might not be, all at once, but maybe we can cope with the challenge and we feel a little bit less helpless, right? When we are able to tell ourselves that, hey, there is hope. There are different options that I can try. I'm not just in this dark tunnel without an end to it. Yeah. So I thought, yeah, that is perhaps the role of curiosity in how we can use this curiosity to help us through a big hurdle in life. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really important thing to do, but at the same time, really challenging,
it
because
is. It
even the
is.
ability to break away from how whatever
Mm,
that person is feeling, to be able to ask these questions,
yes, it is. It's not
is
easy.
quite tough. Yeah,
It
especially
is very tough.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think as I mentioned to you, this is a
Mm,
particular example where my friend,
mm,
as per my observation, is probably
mm.
running away from all of this to kind
Yeah.
of feel better.
Mm-mm.
And yes, she is feeling a bit better, and she's taking steps to kind of keeping herself busy and
Mhm,
doing
mhm, mhm.
things, so that
Alright.
she is not sort of stuck in one place, which is good. And I still think that there's this really important element of self care that is neglected, and
Certain,
um,
yeah,
I think
so important.
it's a good thing that you recommended, telling her to maybe ask questions about what else could come out of this, right? It's an opportunity for change, even though it's uncomfortable right now. And I think a lot of people go through that in life, at least at one stage or another. I used to be in a similar stage earlier in my career. I can remember that feeling, and it feels really tough to break away from that. And and this is actually a really funny story. Now that I look back on it, it's funny. Back in the day, it was not funny, but I think it's relatable for maybe a few people in the audience. I remember when I was in university, I was trying to find a job in Australia. I didn't have any local experience, and finally found a sushi shop that was, looking for staff. So in Australia, there's a problem where a lot of restaurants would hire
Mhm.
international students and pay them really low
Ah,
wage without paperwork.
I see.
And so
Hmm,
one day I got a
hmm.
call saying that they don't need me anymore. So basically, I got
Oh,
fired from the sushi shop because they didn't need
okay.
me anymore, and they
I
wanted to
see.
give more work to their daughter.
Okay.
And
Mm,
I took the call, and I was just kind of like, okay. Obviously, I was devastated because as a
yes,
student,
certainly.
I had bills to
Yeah,
pay. I didn't have
I can
I didn't have
imagine.
family
Yep,
support.
yep.
So
Mm,
uh, at that particular period in
mm,
time, I was already going through depression because of something
mm.
else that was happening
Okay.
before that. And so when
Alright.
this happened on top of it, I was just kind of like,
Mhm.
I was kind of saying to myself, okay,
Mhm, mhm,
that's fine.
mm.
I mean, I didn't like that job that much in the first place. Now I wonder what's going to happen next. Maybe I'm being nudged to work towards my career and find a role that would actually help me with my career rather than working at a restaurant. Because I was close to graduating as well, I think, at that stage. So it was a really tough time for myself. And, I'm not discounting the fact that this is one of many stories out there, and people are probably going through similar things. But I remember asking myself questions that you were talking about. What if it could get better? What if something better would come out of this? Maybe if I hadn't got that call and been let go out of that sushi restaurant, I would have stayed there for a long time and neglect working on my career. So, it was really tough, but, slowly, step by step, I asked myself that question and I did things that I should be doing. And then I got out of there, of that, dark situation. So I think this is probably similar to what you're referring to, asking different questions instead of asking questions like, oh, why did this happen to me? Like, why me? Or like, why, how could they do that to me? Asking questions like, oh, what is going to be better than this? What could happen out of this? I think it would, same to what you were saying at the beginning, it would help us to build that sense of resilience to go through our day and, face the challenges, but not neglecting ourselves. I think that was really important to me because I remember being really focused on, the different aspects of life, and, working on one thing at a time, even though, yeah, it felt like the end of the world for a short period of time. So, yeah, I think. Thank you. Yeah, it was really tough, but I think now that I relate to the insights you share, that was probably why I could get out of the situation, and how as well. It takes a lot of time, but I think this helps, anyone who might be going through a similar situation. Um, and when it comes to, using curiosity to overcome anxiety, I think there's probably going to be a few things to be mindful of, I guess. And I want to hear from you because when I tell you my story, this is something that happened a very long time ago. Now I don't have to go through that. I don't really, like it doesn't really affect me. So it's kind of a funny story to tell, like I got fired from a sushi shop. Haha. But when that happened, and this is probably for our audience, if they want to either go through something themselves or if they want to help somebody else who's going through a tough time, encouraging people to have that sense of curiosity is good, but what is the boundary? Because we don't want to be so inconsiderate is the word. Like we don't want to be like, oh yeah, just focus on the positive, ask yourself these positive questions, right? So how should we handle the fine line between being compassionate versus being encouraging and not really noticing anything else?
That's right. Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Yeah, because it reminds me of toxic positivity, right?
Yeah.
When somebody is going through a tough time, I think the last thing, for example, somebody is anxious, the last thing that we want to tell the person is, oh, calm down, don't be anxious. Things are not as bad. Think of the bright side, right? I think the first thing that we need to do is to empathize with the person, meaning, we can actually just sit with the person, just you let the person rant, validate the emotions of the person. We can say things such as, it must be very tough for you. I can't imagine the pain that you're going through. Use such statements to show the person that, hey, we are with you. We are actually trying to understand, right? What you're going through, although we might never fully understand, but to actually be able to validate, acknowledge that emotions is important. And also, for someone going through a tough time, to tell ourselves that, it is okay not to feel okay. I think that is so important, right? It is okay not to feel okay. And for us who are actually wanting to help another person, bearing in mind that it is okay for the person not to be okay all the time. It is so, so important because many of us, we might actually be affected by the emotions of another person, especially if the person is our close ones at home or our loved ones, right? But giving that person the permission not to feel okay, I think is the first step. And secondly, I think connecting with the person emotionally by, you know, reflecting the person's feelings, acknowledging the person's feelings, and also perhaps doing empathy is also doing things, perhaps to help the person, for example, to bless the person, for example, we know that the person is actually, so tired because of the anxiety, right? When we are anxious or depressed, we can tend to be very tired most of the time, and the person has no time to take care of the children. You know, for example, by offering to bring the children out for ice cream for 1 hour, it can actually be something that can bless the person as well. And checking on the person, once in a while, right? Once in a few days, how are things with you? You know, it can actually help. Yeah, but bear in mind that the person might not respond sometimes, or the person might not respond as as quickly, or might not respond in a way that we hope them to. Telling ourselves that it's okay, all right? Give the person some space, some time as well. Yeah, and to be be mindful of not being overly positive. For example, toxic to avoid toxic positivity, right? Not saying things like, "Oh, other people are going through tougher things than you," or there's a lot of I'm going through uh also a challenging time. It's not about us, right? It's not about comparison with the person, or it's not a competition as well. And also, don't give advice so freely before connecting and showing that we care, before building that trust with the person. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that is
Mm-hmm.
important also.
Yeah, that's a good, that's some good tips for sure. Thank you for sharing that. And now let's talk about something a bit more practical for our audience, because, I'm sure we have covered things from, like general, like little things in life that cause anxiety to really big things that might be tough for people. But if we're talking about, harnessing curiosity in our daily lives, let's be a bit more specific through our practice and habits section. So, what would be a practice or a habit that you would recommend to our audience to try, every day? Or not, maybe not every day, but from time to time when they feel that sense of anxiety and they want to overcome it.
Okay. All right. I think journaling can help. All right. Daily journaling of our thoughts or emotions can help us. When we journal, we actually put our thoughts, externalize our thoughts onto paper, and it's less overwhelming for us here, right? And when we journal, we can ask ourselves, hey, why am I feeling this way? Is there a pattern to situations? What are the triggers? Now, when we journal, we actually increase our self-awareness as well. So that's one thing that we can do. Another thing that we can do, even when we're not anxious, right? Could be, to help to increase our natural curiosity, is to try new things, right? Maybe it could be trying new food, a new type of cuisine, uh, that you've never tried before, once a
Yeah.
month. Yeah, trying out a new restaurant, or even, taking a new route, a different route to school or to the workplace or back home, right? And being curious about the environment around us. And also, some things that we can do is, when we are on the commute, right? On the commute, on the train, instead of being on our phone all the time, we can actually be curious about people around us. What are these two people? How are they feeling? And so on. Be curious about people. I love people watching, by the way. Right? I think that is really interesting, and helps us to to take our mind off, our own issues, our own challenges. And also,
Yeah.
we can what one thing that we can do is to perhaps also maybe learn a new skill, right? If the time permits, and if we have the luxury of time or finances, perhaps learning a new skill, even on YouTube. For example, learn a new language. When we are able to pick up a new hobby, right, a new skill, be curious and learn something new, it actually helps us, to feel better about ourselves. It increases a sense of accomplishment in ourselves. We feel more confident, and that also buffers against, anxiety and depression as well. Yeah. So yeah, and when we are actually talking to someone, I think we mentioned earlier on, be curious. Instead of thinking of like, what to say next, right? Be totally present with the person in front of us. In a family gathering, get to know one person every time we go for a gathering, one new person, right? So that can actually help us, you know, to build that positive relationship as well, and it actually helps in our well-being also. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, these some of the things. These are some of the things that can be helpful to nurture
Yeah.
our curiosity.
Yeah, that sounds great. And not just one practice, but many we can try on different occasions. So thank you for that. And before we let you go, we have open mic where we would love to invite you to share about anything you are passionate about and you would like to talk to the audience a bit more on. So yeah, go for it, Joy.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I think something that I would like to share is uh okay uh all right. I think okay. I think yesterday, no, Saturday, right? I think that was um, I think a very sad day. That I read in the news about the stabbing in Sydney, in Bondi Junction. Yeah, I thought that was uh something that actually that that I was curious about, when I read that article. Yeah, those articles. So I just want to encourage people, who might be actually affected by uh, what you have read or what you have viewed on social media. If you're feeling um, uh, anxious, if you're feeling affected emotionally, mentally, right? Understand that it's okay to talk to someone. There's no shame in seeking help, and you're not alone. Yeah. And remember, there are people who are there who will be willing to help as well. Yeah. So, and this incident also actually reminds me of the importance, right, of taking care of our well-being as well, of our mental well-being. And it reminds me that it's also so crucial to look out for the people around us. Yeah, to just ask, check in with people. How are things with you? How are you coping? I think that can make a difference as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, that was really shocking incident, especially because it happened in Australia, not here in Melbourne, but in Sydney, so it's quite close. Um, and yeah, I think it's a good point that you shared because I'm sure a lot of people are still in shock over that, and lives have been lost. So I think having that in mind is important to know that if anyone is affected by it, even if not directly, right? They can seek help, and probably in different circumstances as well. Seeking help is something that we should do more of, and I'm telling myself this too. Not just to our audience. So, yeah, thank you for sharing, and yeah, thank you for coming on, for joining us today. It's been great talking to you. I feel like there's a lot more we could have covered, but in the interest of time, we should probably close here. Hopefully, next time we can invite you back for another one.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you as well. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
and
having me.
thank you. And final question, actually, if our audience would like to find out more about your work, where should they go?
Oh, okay. I have an Instagram page and also a Facebook page, Empathy Works Psychological Wellness. I'll be happy to connect with them, or LinkedIn as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have been listening to Doing Well, the Wellbeing Science Insights Podcast, produced by the Wellbeing Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, and other podcasting apps available on your devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, share, and subscribe to our channel so that other people can find it and we can continue to provide quality content. More of our work can be found on our website, we.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Lu Ngo. Thanks for tuning in.